When people talk about one of the pure snipers of the 1980s in the NHL and well into the 1990s, Michel Goulet comes to mind. Very smooth player, very dedicated Team Canada player, very big part of the Battle of Quebec years involving the Montreal Canadiens and the Quebec Nordiques. Now, Goulet, born Michel Bernard Goulet on April 21st, 1960, was one of the baby bulls in the WHA before the merge later on. He also played for Quebec and Chicago in the NHL, and was inducted into Hockey Hall of Fame in 1998 after he considered not say a bad career, but injuries plagued him throughout, and he could have scored much more counters than he did, even though he's 548 goals, make him up there with all-time league leaders for snipers. Now, like I said, Goulet did play his first professional season with the Birmingham Bulls in 78-79, but he got his big start with Guy Lafleur's old junior team, the Quebec Remparts. And in 109 games in the regular season with the Remparts, he had 170 points, including a goal a game pace in 1978, which led him to be uh, drafted, or not say redrafted after one season with Birmingham by the Quebec Nordiques, and 20th overall pick. He could have been a number one pick, and in any year. Now, with Birmingham in that initial season, he had 28 goals, 30 assists, and 58 points. A team that had a whole bunch of talent. I'm thinking Rob Ramage and Mike Gartner and a few others. The Bulls were kind of the junior team of the WHA, and they really packed the stands with exciting play. Goulet was what they call a 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 specialist, and also a power play specialist. If you give him any open ground, he was sure to score. Now, his sniper years, including four seasons of 50 goals in consecutive years, from starting with 82, 83, and he was a big part of Quebec's success in the old Adams division, where on numerous occasions they knocked off, not numerous occasions, but knocked off Montreal and other key teams on that side. Weren't really a Stanley Cup contender per se, but a top six team in the league at the time. Now, during the 1989-90 season, season when the Nordiques ended up with a record of 12-61-7, and followed 2 years with a club that failed to make the playoffs. He was eventually traded to Chicago Blackhawks Hawks as part of a what they call a rebuilding occasion. He was traded for goalie Greg Millen in a six-round pick in a 97 entry draft for Everett Sanapa, Daniel Vincelette, and Mario Duaro. Everett had some success with the Nordiques before injuries timing his career. And the big problem with Goulet's career, we mentioned injuries. While playing against the Canadiens at the Montreal Forum on March 16, 1994, Goulet crashed into the end boards, hitting his head, and suffered a severe concussion, which ended his career. He was known for taking injuries and concussions before these major incidents, but he an overachiever in every aspect of his game. Kind of the unofficial sequel to the Mark Tardif legacy that were built with Montreal and Quebec, and he was a successor to, like I said, the great Quebec superstars. In the history of the NHL 1980s, he was a top five francophone player, along with Savard, Lafleur, and a handful of others. Tremendous, tremendous player. Now, a year to the day after the accident, Goulet's number 16 was retired by the Nordiques before a large crowd at the Colisée. And in a weird twist of fate, he was inducted in the Hockey Hall of Fame in '98 alongside his former teammate and power play line mate Peter Stashny. Again, in 1,089 games, scored 558 goals and 604 assists for 1,152 points. Now, even though he didn't win a cup, he won two cups with the Avalanche as a director of player personnel in '96 and 2001, and he's spent most of his career since then as a scout for the Anaheim Ducks. Now, international play, 1993, of course, at the World Championships, had a grand total of 9 points in 10 games. But his international play for Canada was a big part of Canada winning Canada Cups 84 and 87. 84, he had 11 points, including 5 goals in 8 games. And part of that stellar 87 team, led by Gretzky and Lemieux, he had 2 goals, 3 assists, and 5 points. Now, what's really bizarre about this whole deal? He never won a major trophy, and he never won enough recognition, I think, by the media. But you got to understand this: if you score like he did in the mid '80s, in the height of the talent of the NHL, he scored over 220 goals over 4 seasons, with 3 of those seasons at 100 points or more, with 95 points in the other one. Like I said, he was a playmaker, he was a goal scorer, he was a leader. He always told the press and published reports, "I'm there to make my teammates and myself better in every shift I do," and that's what he did. So on this COVID Monday, we're taking a number of looks the last few days at not the unheralded members of the Hockey Hall of Fame, but people who deserve more recognition. When you talk about the top 50 NHL player of all time, Michel Goulet is well in the top 50, maybe top 40. If I was going to start a second line for any all-time team, Goulet would be my player in the second line. Not because he was the best sniper, not because he was the best skater or the best passer. Like I said, he was a force to be reckoned with. Like when you used to say the word Michel Goulet, when you told a young player, he said, you got to play like Goulet. He's an all-around player, offense, defense, on the bench, in the dressing room, off ice. If you wanted to succeed in the NHL and you wanted a role model, Michel Goulet would be your role model. So again, on this COVID Monday, wish everybody a great day, stay safe, and like we say in Gravel Hill, New Brunswick, my old homestead, keep your stick in the ice. Bye.